other speakers, notably Professor Zach Gundu, and host of others. I have a written contribution. At the end of this, I will submit the copies with you because my own is quite in-depth. Even if you give me 2 hours, I will not exhaust it. I am sitting as a traditional ruler who have gathered enough of this crisis spanning over 37 years. My presentation will dwell on 3 facets. 1, I will x-ray the repugnant British policy that recreated empires and made some people lord over others. And people are still carrying out that up to this moment. The other one is a hate agenda. I call it consummated hatred on particular ethnic groups in this nation. And then the canvas solutions, which I will profile 23 solutions. Originally, as you know what the British did under the leadership of Lord Lugard, when you go to Rwanda, you have the problem of Tutsi and the Hutu. When you move in Nigeria, 3 ethnic groups were recreated. We have the House of Fulani, the Yoruba, and the Igbo. And they gave the House of Fulani a leverage. The problem is ubiquitous in Nigeria. But the people who were now used as vassals are the Tiv race in order to suppress them. The problem we are facing today has a root from that angle. Let me take you back to the days of General Babangida. Genocide was unleashed on the Tiv people living then. Let me take it Lafayette Division and Okare Division, but most particular within Doma LGA that was created subsequently. In 1990, hosts of the Tiv people were massacred. Another group was massacred in Awe. This prompted the military government of General Babangida to direct the administration of Governor Joshua Mama Madaki, who then replaced Lieutenant Colonel Aliv Omar Kama as the military governor of Plateau State. In November of 1990, an administrative panel was instituted by the government of Joshua Mama Madaki. And the panel was headed by Mr. Barnabas Dosu, former divisional officer in Tiv Division. The reports of that panel up to today remain in the coolers. At that time, the genocide began in Doma, South constituency, where the people, after it, established their population predominance by electing Honorable Mike Shuenkoko into Doma State House, Nassau State House Assembly in 1999, and he repeated the same feat. That created a kind of hatred agenda that was not accomplished then. Then the Alago oligarchy, they moved in and wooed over the Fulanis to come. Of all the local governments in Nasarawa now, Doma is the self-heaven, greater than Kiana. I remember in Kiana, the two people fought in recreating Kiana Confederacy between 1714 and 1719th century. The Kiana Confederacy was recreated by the two people. Today they are tagged as vassals, and they are tagged as settlers in that state. One thing calls to mind when you come to Doma in particular, because I can give you both the marine and the terrestrial geography of that place. I can speak of every ethnic group in that land better than even the Andoma of Doma, who has a pathological hatred of the two people in his domain and has decided to wipe them off. We must look at that angle. This is where the genocidal attacks are brewed and hatched. against the two people across and other ethnic groups within Benue State, particularly the Doma in Agatu axis. We must note one thing. Even the traditional seats that were created by the British, because of subsequent review of chieftaincy laws under Nasarawa state government, have been erased completely. We have records. I remember during the days of Lafayette Division, when Benue State was created in 1976, we have Justice Ayo Irekefe Boundary Commission. I remember Justice Utsaha sitting here today was a young lawyer. He represented the two people at that time. The issue still continued. Today we have killings in mass, spanning from Gwe West Local Government, most particularly on 8th of February 2011, extending continually and contiguously to other local governments, particularly Guma, Makudi, Logo, Kwande, Ukum. In Tiv-speaking areas, Agatu, Apa, Okpoku, and Otukpo local government areas. In the Idoma-speaking area, Gwe West is the epicenter of this all, as I spoke earlier. What can we say? There is hatred agenda. There is consummated hatred, I can put it that way, that we don't need these people. They are in charge of so much expanse of land, let us wipe them. The killings are ongoing. The killings are unstoppable. Where we can have the hot bed now is Gwe West, Guma, Apa, and perhaps with the sprinkling elements in Agatu. All other areas are still ongoing. So what can we say? Government must remain sincere, and the governors of Nasarawa, beginning from the days of Abdoulaye Ademu, particularly from the days of Almakura, to the present sitting governor, must stop in indulging in eclipse of insincerity. At every point you see them appear on the national television, only lies, concocted lies. I challenge him to a sitting on a national television like this one, so that we can prove him wrong. I will not take you too much on other issues, but I will give you 23 reasons or solutions how we can best solve this. The federal government must take practical and decisive action in not only making pronouncements or issuing condemnation statements over invasion and mass murder of thief communities in Benue, Nasarawa, and Taraba states, but rather should be seen to descend heavily on the perpetrators of this act, who in real sense are terrorists masquerading as herdsmen. It is vital that those responsible for these deliberate acts of killing should be properly unmasked and punished. This is the only way government could be seen to have started to stem the wave of violence that is endangering lives across the country. The ongoing unmasking of Benue attackers and killers should continue, and the culprits brought to justice to serve as deterrent. The nomadic herdsmen must be educated to abandon the old way of roaming with animals and adapt to modern way, which is ranching, so that they can have access to qualitative education and do away with the ignorance and cruelty they always exhibit. The Fulani herdsmen and their host of killers group are out on a genocidal atrocities to be committed and land grabbing campaign and occupation of communities of Benue and in Taraba State, forcing with the natives to live in IDP camps is totally unacceptable. The soldiers must comply with the directive given by the CDS recently in Makurdi that anyone holding prohibited firearms should be shot aside. And that should not stop only with the locals, but should be implemented on these killer bandits who are now outlawed. And we know where they are outlawed, they should be killed. The Miati Allah Cattle Breeders Association, MACBAN, and Miati Allah Cattle Breeders Association are co-conspirators in this act. The leadership should be arrested and tried for complicity in attacking Benue. The thief aborigines in Nasarawa and Taraba must be given political and traditional rights. As it is today, they have no voice of their own. Whatever is happening to them is quiet and is silenced by the authorities that be. Polling booths are already relocated far away from their places. Federal government should direct INEC to do that, to resignate polling booths in their places in order not to deprive them and disenfranchise them, improving their population preponderance during elections. We appeal to federal government, as a matter of fact, to reverse all land and farmland illegally occupied by foreigners or mortgage back to the natives, particularly the two people living in Nasarawa and Taraba, also at home. We equally canvass for this point that as it is now, Nasarawa State, particularly Doma, Awe and Kiana, remain axis of evil. Government should turn her searchlights of security personnel to search these borders and fish out, as the president declared the other time, all the killer squad that are now being harbored within the Benue corridor border of Nasarawa. We must also examine the ECOWAS protocols. Given the nation's escalating security, particularly the invasion and occupation, full-scale genocidal attacks and land grabbing, aside banditry and kidnapping, Article 6 of the ECOWAS protocol must be re-examined to ensure that animals and herds and herders are not moved in anyhow into Nigeria to cause mayhem and commit unbearable atrocities in this nation. We are comprehensively opposed to any decision to allow us to coexist with our killers. Anywhere you go in Benue, the modus vivendi approach is resisted, and we will not allow that. We can't coexist with people we are not born with. It's totally unacceptable. That formula will not work in Benue. Also, there is an advocate here. We know that the two people lived in the former Lafia division, Okare division, and Native division. Let us lift this local government at the corridor here, Kiana, Domanawe. Let's go and lift Bali, Okare, and the rest, and join up with Guma and create a state to diffuse tension, just as what General Bata did in creating Nasarawa State before. We can do that kind of formula now that we are reviewing the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria at the moment. We know that the Sahel is boiling. Crisis in Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger. Government must think how best to secure the borders of Nigeria from preventing the Sahel crisis spilling over into Nigeria and further compounding our case. The issue of coexisting will learn from the Kanamburuno Empire in 1808. We also learn from Laguda, the Kachia settlement, where Grazing Reserve was created in southern Kaduna, and Kachia now has grown to become a Laguda in Fulani language, and they have now a certain authority. And we have also learned from the Wase attacks. The Wase people are no longer, doing what they want. They have an emir, and the emir is always ruled by the Fulanis. So we can't coexist with the Fulanis in Benue, where we know too well that they were not born here with us. Thank you. There are so many other positions.